Fingers.
We're not recording, are we? I'm glad my mic is a bit half.
Ed's got that.
We're definitely video recording.
He is recording. Do we need to clap or whatever?
We will do before we start. Yeah.
Can you do a Mick Jagger clap?
What? Do a Mick Jagger clap. Maybe we should all do that, yeah? Alright, then. On 3, yeah? 1.
Wait, on 3 or after 3?
Are we doing a Jagger clap?
After 3 then. After 3, yeah. So, a test run. 1, 2, 3, clap. Test run.
We need to do it.
Alright, cool. Alright, so 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah, sweet. Alright, so yeah, Tight Men.
Back again.
Yeah, like 6 episodes. Cool.
Hello.
Alright, cool. Before we get started, I have some like listeners' comments. Like Big Tom out there, hello Big Tom. Yeah. He's had some feedback. He's basically said like why are these guys always picking on Arsenal?
God.
Oh, is this the one that you're trying to convince everyone isn't an Arsenal fan?
And he just made him up. There is no Big Tom.
Is he an Arsenal
Big Tom
fan?
is you, Ed.
It's Big Tom Ed. Yeah.
Hey, Big Tom's a legit real person.
Edward, is he an Arsenal fan?
Why does that matter?
Because it
does matter.
Is he an Arsenal fan?
Another comment he made. I think.
Right. Shall we move on now?
When we were talking about Game of Thrones, you said Sean Bean is from Scotland.
Sean Bean?
Yeah. We were talking. You mentioned Sean Bean.
Pretty sure I didn't say he was from Scotland. Sean Bean.
You did.
It was Sean Connery.
No. Seriously. Apparently, he's basically Big Tom says this. He's a listener, so I guess you did.
From Scotland.
Yeah, but apparently he's from.
But he's from like Sheffield. Yeah, I wouldn't have said he was from Scotland.
He's a northerner.
Big Tom said. So
Big Tom's lying. Show me the clip where I said that.
Hey, we'll
Big
go
Tom,
back.
if you're out there, can you write to us?
No, that's it. I was saying, what's his name? Rob Stark was from Scotland.
We were talking about Rob Stark.
Yeah,
was
it
Scottish.
wasn't Sean Bean.
Big Tom letting us down.
I don't
Big
know.
Tom, you're not listening right. We were talking
No,
about.
actually, he's our only fan, so I think we should.
Take it easy.
Yeah, I like you, Big Tom.
Exactly. Big Tom's he's a sound guy.
No, but we were definitely talking about Rob Stark. I
He's a
didn't say
sound
Sean.
guy.
I knew Sean Bean was from Sheffield, so I wouldn't have said that he was from.
Yeah, maybe
Scotland.
you know now, but back then you didn't know, Shane. What can I say?
No, that's rubbish.
Is he an Arsenal fan or not?
Why does that matter?
Because then his points
course
are
it
irrelevant.
matters.
What do we want to talk about?
Because then it's bias. If he's an Arsenal fan, it's biased.
Maybe it should be biased to counter the anti-Arsenal bias that goes on in this podcast with you guys. Yeah.
Wow, man. All right.
Anyway, what do we want to talk about? What was that?
Whether Big Tom's an Arsenal fan or not.
Yeah.
That's a new topic.
or like Jazz, you coined the term.
I didn't coin it. I read
really?
it somewhere.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay,
Trexit.
well, I was giving you credit, but
I'm not going to go put that out there into the atmosphere. So
Right, cool.
taking ownership for that.
Jazz has got far too much integrity for that.
Yeah. So Theresa May's exit.
yeah, Trexit and European elections. Yeah.
Yeah,
Did any of you vote, or did?
I voted.
I didn't vote.
I actually abstained this time round.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did, yeah.
Did you vote?
I voted.
Just me and you then.
You didn't vote either.
Nah.
Again?
I know, yeah.
But to be quite honest, I kind of felt it was.
God damn it now!
I kind of felt it was a little
sorry.
bit pointless.
Yeah, I didn't know who to vote for.
Now, to be honest, I kind of get where you're coming from. I was kind of
Yeah.
up until the last day. I was a bit like, "What is this all thing? What is this for?" It's basically we had this election because we failed to leave
Yeah,
when we said we would.
but we're going to leave anyway, so it's a bit of a point. It's a bit of a
It
pointless
seems to
thing.
be less about the actual purpose of the election and more about making statements. Either Brexit Party makes a statement by winning most of the seats to show that people,
Which they did.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what was the point?
Or the Remain parties get seats which they didn't to show that people want to remain. Or
Well, they did.
Yeah.
Look, we're not going to remain.
They did get... Yeah, they did.
Well,
So
they
what
did
you're
get the
what,
majority.
so what you're
Collectively,
saying?
they done well.
So what you're saying? It was like a pseudo second referendum.
That's kind of what it was being pitched as, but like it's kind of like.
And that's what the parties pitched it as well, though.
But really,
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
the Brexit Party is basically formed because Nigel Farage said, the Conservatives we should have left on 29th of March. But
Yeah.
we haven't. So I'm setting up, and I want it to be a sort of mini referendum on the fact that we should leave with no deal.
Ridiculous.
See, that would be okay if I actually listened to the Brexit Party. So I didn't turn out because I didn't
Honestly,
know.
they had a
Yeah.
huge market. Like they were. I got some stuff through the post.
Yeah, see, I was the only one who
Yeah,
didn't.
Edward, you did as well.
Yeah.
I haven't.
I didn't get anything. Oh, so you didn't get anything?
He
either?
knows he could count on your vote already, mate. That's right.
Yeah, he saw that tattoo.
And then on the other side, though, the Lib Dems, Greens, Plaid Cymru, SNP, they all put forward the fact that we need a second referendum.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, it was definitely a proxy for, on the one hand, pushing towards a no-deal exit, and on the other hand, pushing towards a second referendum. and that's basically what the outcome has shown, that the sort of the middle ground occupied by Labour and to a degree the Tories is sort of evaporated.
To be quite honest, I don't think that there's going to be any chance that we remain in Europe anyway, which is why I kind of thought it was a bit pointless to go out and vote. There's not going to be a second referendum. What will happen is we'll either leave with a sliver of a deal, or we'll leave with no deal. Those are the two options on the table. I mean, as I'm a Remainer, I would love us to remain, but I just don't think it's going to happen. So
I heard that Theresa May, she's got two appointments in Brussels, isn't she, before she leaves?
She has, yeah.
So there might be some movement
They're probably
before she moves.
No, because I saw her. I suppose you call it her departing speech. And from the sounds of it, she's not going to be the one to take us forward anyway. So I'm not sure what she's going to be doing in Brussels. It can't be negotiating a deal.
Were you guys upset that she left?
I was upset that she cried at the end. I thought, man up, Theresa. No,
I'm kind of glad you said that. Yeah, because you don't want to see a woman cry.
Did you
I don't want to see her cry.
Well,
did you buy it?
Really?
And
I don't want to see her cry.
all that was I understand that, and the empathy levels, fine, but that was all to soften and as the big feel sorry for me. And realistically, she's cocked it right up.
Plus,
and beyond that as well, like how much other shit has she done and she hasn't cried about, but she cried because.
well, this is it.
That's
So
what
this is
I'm
what
saying,
annoyed me about
in the NHS and the
what annoyed me
emergency
about the
services and all
situation.
that.
Not a tear.
Not a single tear.
as Home Secretary, she was a hard. Yes, she was. She was a hard woman,
Say the
and
word.
like all of a sudden you become the PM, and then you're going to show us a bit of emotion at the end of your
it was
departing
all-
speech.
that was all bullshit.
I reckon it was staged. I reckon there was some.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think she was crying. I don't think that was real. I
I think she was crying because she knew that she'd cocked it right up.
maybe that's it. Maybe she's crying at her own failure rather than she's crying
I
because.
just think that you enter. When you get made PM, you probably have these sort of delusions of grandeur that you're going to change everything. Like her big thing was to not be the Brexit Prime Minister, was to be the sort of person who tackles the burning injustices, and she's basically failed at that.
Well, she did have Brexit on her hands. I mean, if Brexit wasn't there, perhaps she would have been a better PM.
Maybe. But her aim was to not just be the Brexit Prime Minister, and she's not even going to be the Brexit Prime Minister. She's going to be the person who wasted 3
It's
years.
quite similar, and I don't really want to compare her to Obama, but it's quite similar to how Obama, being the first black president, inherited a load of shit. So rather than him being able to put his stamp on being president with healthy coffers, he took over at a time when all he was doing was basically trying to fight.
But statistically, he was the worst performing president of all time.
Yeah, because he had no money.
Was he?
Really? I didn't
Based
know
on
that.
what?
As in, like, following through his manifesto and actually getting things done.
Yeah, but that's not
Statistically,
his
he was the
fault.
worst.
That's not his fault.
I'm
That
just saying
goes through.
statistically, he was the most ineffective US president.
That's their
of all time.
governmental system. I mean, because of the majorities in that, is it the Senate or is it the House of Representatives? I can't remember.
Senate. Is it
Yeah,
Senate?
because of the majorities, a lot of his policies that he wanted to push through got overturned before they reached.
And the Senate can be made up of everyone else from the opposing party as well.
Yeah,
can't it?
indeed,
So if you're
indeed.
trying to put through things,
He's basically operating with no majority.
Plus,
Yeah.
one of my old bosses, he's dead now, God rest his soul. He actually said when Obama got into power, he said that, it's a great historical moment, but he said, I feel sorry for the guy because he's inherited a load of shit, basically, and he won't be successful just because of the shit that he inherited before he became president. So is Theresa May? So is Theresa May in the same sort of situation where she's inherited the country in a state where half the country wants to leave Europe, half the country doesn't want to leave Europe. We're all umming and ahhing, we're all fighting each other, and she has to find some sort of deal or some sort of thing that's palatable for both sides. I kind of feel like she was in a bad situation to begin with. So maybe if she didn't have Brexit on her hands, maybe her tenure would have been a lot better.
I think the best metaphor is she had like basically a duff hand at the table and she played the worst buff anyone could play.
Yeah.
When she was powerful, so before the 2017 election, when the Tories had a stable majority, she basically just pandered to parts of her party to try and just to not create any compromise. And then once she lost the power, she was like she still continued until the 11th hour saying Brexit means Brexit, all these vacuous phrases to suggest there's no compromise. And in the end she had to sort of stumble and really try to pull together a coalition because she realized she doesn't have the votes to back her deal. Like she played the whole thing terribly. But that's not to say she didn't have a bad starting position, but she played a weak hand poorly.
So what we're saying is that irrespective of the position that she inherited, she is essentially a bad politician.
But to be fair, I think she. I'd say yeah.
She's a bad
My
politician.
opinion would be yes.
Are we all in
Because
agreement?
She lied about the snap election as well, didn't she?
Yeah, she said
said
that
she
ages-
was never going to do one, and then bam. She
Yeah,
pulled the
why
snap
was that?
election,
I
and-
could see no pressure from anywhere for her to call a snap election.
It was
Snap
the two
election.
advisors who said that.
The ones that got sacked.
Yeah, it was all that. Do you remember? It's just. I mean, there's so many things to come to mind. Like in her speech, she had the audacity to talk about compromise not being a dirty word.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, rewind sort of 18 months, and wasn't it the headlines? Crush the saboteurs, and that's why when it was her face on the Daily
Yeah.
Mail, and that's why she did she went for the election in 2017.
Right, okay.
To sort of because she thought Labour was so weak, she could win like a sweeping
That's what she thought.
majority.
She thought that she was going to wipe Labour out, pretty much.
Yeah, and then she
Yeah.
didn't. She
And
didn't.
it
She didn't
never
realise that
happened.
Corbyn was a.
Completely backfired.
Well, Corbyn was a bit of a.
But it's a campaign
At the time, a revelation, wasn't he?
If she campaigned better, then she maybe could have. But
Possibly.
yeah.
I mean, her campaign was relatively non-existent, wasn't it?
But I remember, like, I think she
Dementia tax thing.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
also just when she talks to people, when she has interviews, she doesn't really seem. There's no charisma. Like people didn't really warm to her. I think
She seems quite disconnected when she speaks,
People were
doesn't she?
focusing
Yeah.
on her shoes as well a lot, and like about her. Was she wearing like £1,500 shoes one day?
I suppose that's the thing. Maybe being a female politician.
That is just
Yeah.
When was the last time we commented on a man's shoes? That probably quite.
No, I think because they were saying. I think it was. It might have been. Was it the ambulance service funding that was cut? And I think it was shortly after that she was wearing a pair of £1,500 shoes.
Okay, I see.
And it was, that sort of thing, and it was plastered all over the front page.
It's concerning though when we talk about charisma as a sort of like a parameter for being elected, because then you think on the flip side of that with Boris Johnson, it seems like that's all he's got. Even though I don't really find him that charismatic, but people often say he's got all that sort of.
Hitler had charisma.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the worrying thing with the whole that sort of vibe. Because who do you guys think now is going to be the next or take over?
How many people have put their name in?
Yeah, there's been loads.
I've
I've heard Boris Johnson. I've heard Gove. I've
Yeah.
heard Rees Moggs. Who I doubt he would stand for
Moggs
anything.
not
Is he not there? No.
Sajid,
Hunt.
Hunt
Yeah, John
and
Hunt.
He's put
I
his
forget
name
the
in.
lady's
Esther
name.
McVeigh,
Esther, and there's another lady.
There's another.
I forget her name.
Liz Truss.
That's
has
it.
gone
Yeah,
for
yeah,
it.
Liz Truss.
Who's the one who resigned? Like
Even though Liz,
and
I'm
you're
pretty
right,
sure Liz
Andrea
Truss.
Leadsom.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure she ruined the prison service when she was in
I mean,
charge.
they've all ruined something.
Gove ruined
Pretty
education.
much have, yeah.
Gove ruined education. NHS ruined the Hunt ruined the NHS.
Chris Grayling has literally single-handedly ruined the transport.
Well, they call him Failing Grayling.
I don't want to talk about
Yeah.
Chris Grayling.
So what does that mean? That you have to actually ruin
There's
one
all
of
these funny memes going around about Chris Grayling, and there was like ones with all the milkshakes and stuff like that, and there's something about he threw a milkshake at himself and missed, and all this sort of thing. And then there was a picture of a building that had just been under destruction, so it was like halfway down, and it was like this is the aftermath of Chris Grayling throwing his hat into the ring for the. It was like half a building was destroyed.
It was a good one I heard about Shazid Javid today. So when a racist guy says, I can't be racist, I've got a brown friend, they're actually talking about Shazid Javid.
Is everyone brown friend?
But to be quite honest, it looks like the prerequisite to being in the frame for PM is that you have to ruin a government department. You have to have ruined at least one government
To be
department.
fair though, what he said about the Windrush thing, that he
Yeah.
would go out of his way to uncover what actually happened and all this sort of stuff, and then was it 48 hours later he then set about making the files secret.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's
And also, I mean, we're getting a bit off topic here, but his handling of the whole Shamima Begum thing I thought was completely off colour. I thought he basically...
Playing to his base, basically.
Yeah, played it up because he didn't want a tour like a lot of Middle England to say, oh, you're from a
Yeah, you're
Pakistani
supporting her,
heritage,
yeah.
you're taking it easy on someone. I mean, but going back to the EU elections though, the way it will, I think, influence what happens next is you're going to see this race for the Tory leadership. They're going to basically be trying to out-Brexit the Brexit party.
Yeah.
Because they're all worried about, if a general election gets called or if they aren't seen to be as cutthroat as Nigel Farage, then they're not going to... They need to appeal to their member base, really.
Which means that the other important issues that we deal with in society are going to get swept under the carpet again, or they're going to get neglected. I mean, this is the issue. I mean, in our previous Brexit pod, I actually said it's a massive distraction because we have so many other issues. We have knife crime. We have so many other things that we need to be dealing with, but it all kind of gets sidelined for this Brexit thing, this Brexit project, if you like. I mean, again, this is what's going to happen. So when we do have this leadership run for the next Tory Prime Minister, they're all going to be talking about Brexit, and all of the other issues are going to be sidelined for Brexit again.
Just as a quick one, do you think that when she steps down, do you think she'll call a general election?
No,
I don't think so.
She can't though, can she?
She can't. No,
I think
she can't.
Yeah, I think the new person has to be voted in, and then he or she can call a general election.
So do you think there'll be a general election?
It's a party vote though. It's not a public vote. So we won't vote.
Voting Christmas.
Yeah, we won't vote for the next prime minister.
yeah,
It will be the Tories voting for their next leader.
exactly.
Yeah, so it won't be us as the people voting in the next prime minister.
So
but
when that
once
person gets
will there then be a general election called?
It depends on how much clout this next person's got. If they don't have a whole lot of clout, then I think the only thing they can do is call a
You say
general
Turkey's
election.
calling for Christmas, but then that's giving the impression that Labour's ready to take over, and I don't think
They're not. They're not.
No,
No.
I'm not. No, I think both major parties, after showing today, are really afraid of a general election. And to your point, Shane, I think what we might see happen, and what one of the most likely outcomes now is you get a Boris or a Esther McVeigh, Dominic Raab, the other guy who's running. They're all sort of quite hard line, and they're basically like, we're leaving on the 31st,
Yeah.
with or without a deal. We don't like the deal we've got. There's just not enough time to renegotiate, even if the EU were up for it, which means basically leaving on WTO terms. And then the question of having a general election comes down to whether there's a confidence vote or not. And to do that, you need a 2/3 majority in the House of Parliament. So you'd need, 75 odd, I don't know the numbers, but a decent chunk of
From their own party though, not cross party for a vote of confidence. For vote of confidence in the prime minister. Oh really?
To vote of confidence in the government, I think. And
Right.
And it call a general election.
Yeah.
So because it's all to do with the Fixed Term Parliament Act now. So after after coalition government came in, they had a Fixed Term Parliament Act that means that you can only have a general election every 5 years, unless the governing party call it, or there's a 2/3 majority for one. And the only way, and so what you would need is enough Tory rebels to not go along with a no deal Brexit to call one. And as anyone's guess, if that actually happens, who knows?
Well, it depends who gets appointed in the next
Who
Conservative leader. You're asking me to choose between shit and piss.
Yeah, exactly. the best of a bad bunch. Yeah.
That's tough. That's tough.
though, right? Yeah.
Well,
Just if we're talking about it, yeah.
yeah, but would you want any of them?
No. But if you had to choose,
If you, I don't know, like
I think politically we're knackered
we are.
as it stands at the moment.
that's a good.
We are. There's
I think
no
we
decent,
are.
but there's no decent
It's like
politicians
I've
left.
said to you before, I've got no affiliation to any political party whatsoever. And I genuinely believe that we are knackered when it comes to next in line.
We just need some stability. Yeah, nothing crazy. Yeah.
But who's going to give you that? I mean, they've all
That's
got
what I
radical ideas. Johnson's got radical ideas. Gove's got radical ideas.
Let's be honest, though,
Hunt
Boris
is prob-
Johnson's a
to be
lunatic.
quite honest, Hunt is probably the most placid out of the lot.
No, that guy's just. I have a lot of friends who are doctors.
No, but I mean, in terms of
Charlie works
being
within the
placid,
NHS,
Hunt is
and
probably he's probably
fucked them
the
right out
most.
the arse.
No, but I'm not saying that he's the best option. I'm just saying he's the most placid out of the bunch. But when you look at them,
His
Boris.
personality or his views are placid.
No, I just think I think him in terms of his views as well. He's far more placid. I mean, Johnson has some quite radical ideas. Gove is so hardline. Like you wouldn't want him in power. Truss, I think she's pretty inept. To be quite honest, I don't rate her as a politician at all.
Of, like very moderate guys. There's a guy called Rory Stewart. Who's,
I've heard a lot about.
Yeah.
He's in the running as well. Right, okay.
Occupy this middle ground. He's the ex-prisons minister, but he just won't get in because ultimately it's a Tory base that votes the next prime minister. So you're looking at 100,000 people from all a certain type of a certain age, certain racial background, certain sort of social class, all very, very pro hard Brexit.
Yeah,
he's not going to get a look in. So I personally, I think it would probably be Dominic Raab, which I think is quite frightening.
But Rory Stewart, he might know that, and I suppose getting his name out there now it'd be good. It'd be good for the future, essentially, when things settle down.
So
when
when we've got tax cuts and no deal Brexit happens, we can at least look to the future.
Okay, so when is the next scheduled election, general election?
2022.
So we'd have to have them in. Oh God, wow!
3
I'm
years.
sad now. I'm leaving the pod. No, bloody 2020 for 3 years of. Wow. Well, so all we can do is hope for another snap election, whoever gets in.
No, I think there is a chance that there could be a general election called anyway. Because the other thing is I actually think Boris Johnson doesn't have the guts to go out on WTO terms. I think he again does what he always does, which is play to the crowd, tell people what they want to hear.
Yeah, because he's a Brexiteer essentially.
He is, but he was a last-minute Brexiteer.
Yeah,
There's literally videos of him from
sitting on the fence. Yeah.
14 being like. No one's talking about leaving the single market. That would be bananas. And now, like just because he's playing to a crowd.
Yeah.
Didn't Theresa May sit on the fence as well?
She was Remain. She was Remain. She was Remain.
She wasn't like very like strong, but she was campaigning for Remain.
Yeah.
Oh, so she was like sort of.
I think she campaigned.
A bit wishy-washy. It's a shame, really, because
more than Corbyn.
I thought David Cameron done quite a good job as a prime minister, but
in hindsight, looking back at what we.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's just a shame, really, that
he put that in the manifesto. That's what the shame was.
And he was a Remainer through and through, wasn't
Yeah.
he? So to step down was probably the right thing. But I don't know.
He should have never been a part of the Tory manifesto, to be honest.
I think it's because he didn't think they were going to win a majority.
Yeah.
And no one did.
Exactly. Everyone thought there'd be another coalition.
Yeah.
It was desperate.
Yeah. But I mean, the most regrettable thing about this entire fiasco is that basically now your politics are defined, just your cultural identity, everything is defined whether you're a Remainer or Leaver, and actually that's not it. Things don't fall into those neat boxes.
No.
Like a lot of Leavers, I have the same sort of, I have the same sort of social aspirations in terms of wanting more investment in the NHS, wanting more social services, more investment in public realm, and you might find there's a lot of Remainers who are more free market that you don't agree with.
Yeah.
But because the system is now broken, everything is divided into either A or B, and it's kind of a nonsense.
Which is why I was saying that something in terms of Brexit needs to happen. We either need to leave or we need to remain as quickly as possible so that we can focus on the real important issues.
Move on, yeah.
Yeah, we need to move on and focus on the important issues. The fact that Brexit is still looming and there's no decisions made is the reason why we're divided into two camps.
But my concern is, after the results of the last sort of 48 hours,
Yeah.
that being able to draw a line under the sand and just move on, I actually think that's got further away.
Yeah.
Because the idea of having because Theresa May's agreement, nobody likes it, but it is a compromise.
Yeah.
And if Labour to come forward with something, it would be a compromise, like a soft Brexit, where Brexit is done. There's some people who are pissed off that the way it's done. There's some people who's pissed off that it's done at all. But actually, we could probably move forward. And that scenario, I think, is far more unlikely now than it was.
But to be quite honest, if we leave with no deal, we still put it to bed. I mean, and then we'd have to focus on the issues at hand.
I think you'd have a whole new set of issues.
But there would be issues. But to be quite
negotiate how we deal with the European Union.
Yeah, but to be quite honest, we could move away from the whole Brexit thing in terms of that being the thing, because once it happens, you can't then take it back. So once it happens,
we still have to negotiate how we're gonna
indeed. But that moves away from Brexit. So
I agree with what Shane's saying. Once it's done, it's done. Rather with what Jazz is saying now about it being everyone's put in the two box category, which is true.
Indeed.
And there are people that are more middle ground and sort of crisscross between the two with different views and different opinions. But I suppose a no deal, rather than drag it on, it's done.
And then we're all pulling in the same direction in terms of getting deals. Yeah.
But I know it will be difficult.
To be quite honest, once it happens, or once we remain, or once we leave, or whatever's decided, as soon as that happens, then we all pull together as a nation to get the best deals possible. So then we're not divided anymore, because you can't keep moaning about something that's already happened.
I think you can't talk about the idea of moving on under a no-deal Brexit without talking about the fact that we're in this time now, like Trump, Brexit, whatever, where people don't believe what experts tell them anymore.
Yeah.
So from all the analysis I understand, and I don't claim to be a trade expert, but no deal would be very, 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 it would be a massive shock to the economy.
Oh, definitely. And I've said this before.
Huge.
Yeah.
It's already happened. And all right, we didn't have the sort of doomsday Project Fear scenario that George Osborne predicted, but there have been job losses because of Brexit, undoubtedly.
Yeah.
Like, look at the steel factory in the news last week, and all the car manufacturing that they're not progressing. Like, a car manufacturer will never say it's because of Brexit, because they've got to sell their products to 52% of the nation that voted Brexit, so they're not going to piss them off. But to say that it has had no impact on the economy is a fallacy. So the problem is my personal view is that a no-deal Brexit would be so catastrophic that we'd be dealing with a whole load of other stuff. And it would do anything but put the.
But from what we've had, and saying that Theresa May her deal that was on the table was a compromise, and the British public and Parliament wasn't happy with that. When Europe aren't going to give us any more than what was already agreed, so then what do? We either accept what Theresa May had on the table, or we have no deal.
Yeah,
that's
you're
the
right,
two
yeah.
options.
Or no Brexit.
Or no Brexit,
Which I think would be equal. Which would
be great for me as a Remainer. It would be great, but I don't see that happening.
Piss
That's
off a lot of people
that's not
as
going to
well.
happen.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. And the
It'd make a
problem,
mockery of the whole system.
but also, what would happen if that happens is that a few years down the line, we'll inevitably have another referendum to say whether we want to come out of Europe again, which is why. The fact that it was voted for, I know the margins were very tight.
I don't think there'd ever be another.
I think they're banned.
I don't
No, but I know the margins were
there would
tight.
be.
But if
we stayed in,
if we stayed in, no, I reckon there will. I reckon one of the political parties will think to themselves, "Bang! How can we get votes? Right, we'll play on the fact that we remained after
the Brexit party."
Yeah, we'll play on the fact that we remained after the public said that they wanted to leave. So we'll play on that, and that would become the key point in their manifesto, and someone will use it. And if that party happens to get in, we'll find ourselves with another referendum. I think the only feasible thing that can happen is we have to leave. Otherwise, this Brexit thing is going to be brought up time and time again.
Do you think if we leave, do you think that will be the fall of the European Union?
Sorry to break up your flow. I just want a beer. I just need.
No, that's fine.
I fancy a beer as well. Actually, this talk it's always made me quite thirsty. Thank you very much.
Do you think that will be the fall of the European Union?
No, I don't. I think the European Union is something that is never going to go away.
Because you see, Le Pen in France.
Marine Le Pen.
Yeah, she got a huge amount of votes, didn't she?
She did worse than last time though.
She did.
Yeah.
She did. She's actually fallen. So what she did,
in the French
her
European
father.
election.
Her father's
In the European
father's main policies or ideas was pretty much down the far right racial sides. What she's tried to do is she's tried to distance herself from her dad and try to come across as a legitimate political party.
She's exactly the same as Nigel
Aren't
Farage.
they just kind of
exactly,
alt-right, though?
yeah.
Aren't they more? Is she more alt-right than far-right, like her father? Or
Yeah, that's what she tried to do. To get votes, what she's tried to do, she's tried to distance herself from her father, so that she doesn't look like she's that outright racist who wants to kick out everyone who's not basically French born and bred, and sort of create this legitimate party, which is what most of these far right people do. Like the BNP tried to do it, obviously didn't work, but this is what most of these far right movements do, is they try to then, they know that the whole violence thing, the whole hatred against a particular race doesn't work. So what we'll do is we'll try to legitimize ourselves by creating a political party, which never works.
I mean, but to Mike's question though, do you think that is there a future for the EU beyond?
I do. I don't think the
I actually think they're stronger now.
No, they are.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say.
Indeed. I agree.
Turnout in this election was higher than last time, and it was the highest in the last.
for the UK or for
everyone. It was up from 42% to 51% or something like that. So people now are more engaged with the European politics than they ever have been.
I do think it strengthens their hand, and plus, I don't think we're particularly perceived as good guys in terms of the European Union anyway.
You've got Italy, you've got France, and you've got the UK, where we've got a strong sort of populist anti-Brexit, anti-EU sort of sentiment, and that's represented in our politics. But in Spain, the Netherlands, Germany, they're all electing quite pro-EU.
That's what I mean, and because we're seen as the bad guys essentially by the people that are pro-EU, I think it just strengthens the position
Take
of
a
the
slight
EU.
tangent. You know, we came bottom of Eurovision as well. Yeah,
We always do.
We always do.
But that's political. That's got
has
nothing
that
to
been
do with
since the
talent.
Iraq War though? Like I swear, since
No. I swear there's a nil point one, wasn't it?
We have never ever done well in Eurovision.
we won it. Like I remember in the 90s.
Yeah, but no, that was Bucks Fizz, wasn't it?
in the
I thought it was
90s,
Gina G.
not in the 90s.
Or Gina.
Is she in there?
So is that not her?
I don't know. Maybe she might have won it. As
But
well.
I think back then it was far less political. Now it just tends to
That's
be.
what I think. I swear,
It tends to be really political now. So you'd have the Eastern
think so?
Bloc.
I think so. I remember.
You'll have the Eastern Bloc that will use their first, second, and third votes for other Eastern Bloc countries. It's all political now.
Yeah.
I mean, we sometimes get a vote from Ireland or something like that. It's all blocks.
I'm not buying that.
No, we do. It's all
we
political.
come from
Ireland. Ireland.
It's got nothing to do with talent. The Eurovision has nothing to do with talent anymore. It's all political.
Yeah.
I mean, one of my biggest frustrations with the whole thing is actually so much
Eurovision,
about what we
you
talk
mean,
about.
Eurovision.
No, I don't give a shit
Oh,
about
okay, right.
Eurovision. But with Brexit is that actually we don't talk about some of the big questions that actually matter to our country and actually are relevant. to whether we want to be a member of the EU or not, or how we want our membership to be. So we hardly ever talk about, the ever increasing integration, or what role we want in the world, or actually how important the EU is in managing things like issues with data, cybersecurity, climate change, like handling Russia. That on a national level is hardly ever talked about. All we do talk about is the fallacy, like the promised land of how we're going to be this buccaneering, entrepreneurial, free, independent. You can't see, but I'm doing air quotes.
Wait. We can see.
We can see. Yeah, we can see.
We can see. Yeah.
Independent nation, like that is free from our shackles of like the bureaucracy of the.
Everyone could see you weren't serious there, Jess.
Yeah. Of the EU sort of restraining our entrepreneurial spirit, like that. That's the thing that is more in the public domain, rather than actually having a legitimate conversation about what parts of the EU are positive, what parts are challenging, and what do we want to do with that.
And that's why I thought that actually even just the premise of the whole referendum was just odd to me, because I never even thought about it prior to that. Like I wasn't walking around and thinking, oh, the EU's stressing me out, I want to get out of the EU. That's why I didn't even understand the point of the whole thing. It was just so alien to me. And I think if there's one thing that's happened in the last 3 years, that everyone's a lot more learned about the whole thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, and I agree with that.
Was it like post like Brexit, post like voting to leave? Or was it the biggest search was what is the EU or something?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what is it? And that's why it's just such for me still it's very silly.
But I think that's just the state of politics in general. I mean, a lot of people just vote on political soundbites. So you'll have people that will vote just based on one sentence that a politician says. I'm not saying everybody does that, but the vast majority of people do that.
No, I mean that was shown today in the results today that the parties that did best had the easiest answers.
Yeah.
Like I'm very pro Remain, but I don't think a second referendum is the right response to a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like the country is in a different place now than it was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
You can't, now that the genie's out the box or whatever they're saying is, you can't put it back.
You can't put it exactly. And I agree with that.
Genie in a box. That's
remix that song.
I agree with that. The thing is, I mean, it would be great for us to have these conversations in the political forum, but the problem is that political parties and politicians will pander to the majority to get votes. If the vast majority of people are making decisions based on particular sentences, they're not gonna want to have these conversations, because it's counterproductive to what they're trying to achieve as politicians, as political parties. What you'd need the population as a whole to actually care about each and every aspect of the political spectrum, rather than just that particular part suits me, so I vote for that party, and not really research what the rest of their ideology is about. So I kind of feel that we would never be in a position where we can have these frank discussions from our politicians to us as a general public, because people don't want to listen to that.
Yeah. I think as well, you can't talk about Brexit without really mentioning the sort of 30 years of political apathy that's preceded it. So you had Thatcher, followed by New Labour, followed by the Cameron government, and basically after Thatcher anyway, you saw both major political parties moving to the centre ground, adopting a neoliberal policy platform where there was ever increasing investment into the cities, the southeast, and you had a lot of places that are neglected. So most people think, the most common thing, not that I ever go knocking on the doorstep, but you hear people saying is, whatever, who cares about politicians, they're all the
same.
And that is less true now than it's ever been, but probably people feel it's more true now than it's ever been, and it's actually pretty depressing.
It is, and I don't know how you I mean, we've had so many years now of this whole Brexit thing looming, and people having apathy with politics in general, that how do you engage the public again to care, and how do you engage the public to want to be involved with taking our country forward, rather than just sort of...
I think this whole thing has done much more damage with the relationship between the public and politicians.
Yeah, absolutely.
Than good. I think it's trashed.
Trust more than anything in our lifetimes.
Yeah,
I
think. Well, just because of all they're talking about Brexit and we're going to leave on such a date. Oh no, we'll leave on this date instead, and then we'll leave. But just the whole thing, like the 350 million plastered across the side of buses that are driving around London, and it's all bullshit. If anyone actually bothered to take the time out to actually read 15 seconds worth of reading, it's all rubbish. But it's those sorts of lies. And the scaremongering from the Remain side as well, and all that sort of stuff. But it's just done it's increased the gap between the public and politicians wider than it's ever been.
I suppose no one's paid for that though, have they? Like, that was said, no one's really been held accountable for that.
Yeah, you were saying that before, weren't you?
Yeah. But who are we meant to hold it to account?
That's what I mean.
The people who campaigned for Leave, they were talking about the 300.
But it's cross-party, so how you can't hold individuals.
Leave.eu is an organisation. It's like they're funded by Aaron Banks.
Yeah, there's been a lot in the news about him. But then I suppose, not even.
What? So blame them? You're saying?
It's just for only one part of it, but what Mike's talking about is a much wider. I think a much wider. Thing.
Yeah, in terms of Brexit, it's very difficult to pinpoint blame
the
because
figureheads for the Leave campaign were talking about. They were referencing that stat as well. But none of them has been held accountable for.
But how it's difficult to hold individuals accountable.
Hold someone accountable for that.
You can hold parties accountable.
What could you do?
Yeah, you can hold account.
It just feels weird. There's been no.
There's electoral law.
But I mean,
I agree with you. But I'm just saying, how do you do it? How do you hold
David
Cameron
Cameron said that there would be World War III. Should he be held accountable for that?
Say that again.
He definitely should be held.
He said that there would be World War III if Brexit was achieved.
Well, he left.
No, but that's what I'm saying. But you can't hold him accountable for that because he's just said it, isn't he?
Say the politicians I mentioned, like say the figureheads for Leave, I suppose Gove, like Johnson and Farage.
Yeah, they haven't been.
But they've all won re-elections or.
You're absolutely right. They've contributed to this like breakdown in the relationship.
Yeah, like they've all almost profited from
I think they all have.
But then
they've all contributed to it in one way or another.
Side,
and all sides have contributed to this breakdown.
But to say that, the people who are at fault are then us as voters. Who else is at fault?
With you, I was gonna like.
You're right. We should take a bit of. You're right. Like the person who can't be bothered to read. 15 seconds,
so we're at fault. We're wanting to hold them to account for political sound bites, but as you were saying, Jazz, if you took 15 seconds to actually read things, then Mike, sorry,
that's fine.
If you took 15 seconds to, if you took 15,
because I'm the only white one here, isn't it? That's why. That's fine.
So maybe we have to stand up and take some responsibility for us voting these people in. Like you're saying that the figureheads of the Leave campaign are not being held to account and they're getting re-elected. That we're the people who are re-electing them.
I was gonna like take you to account.
Really?
No, in a sense, you should, like in the sense that I think when we first talked about like Brexit in the first podcast, I think one thing you said which I kind of took to heart and I almost did was if instead of rather than having a protest vote and just voting for whoever, you like spoil your ballot.
Abstain.
I was thinking of doing that, spoiling my rather than just abstain, but spoiling my ballot.
Actually going in.
I changed. I read something that changed my mind at the end, and I voted.
You voted Change UK, didn't you?
I actually did.
Oh no! You know, I heard actually if Change UK had just gone with Lib Dems, Lib Dems would have.
Yeah, I heard they were thinking of like trying to join like a pro-Remain.
So you actually took what I said on board?
Sometimes you say, sometimes you make sense, Shane.
I love you, Ed.
but then I swear you said spoil your ballot rather than abstain.
Either way, I mean, you can spoil your ballot or you can abstain. What I don't agree with is the fact it's basically what's got us in this situation now, where you're not quite understanding what a certain political party is about, and you've heard a political soundbite from this party, and you think, I like that, and you go and vote, not understanding what it is that you're voting for. If you don't understand, I would prefer that person abstains, because you're saying I don't.
I think in that situation, then you shouldn't have a referendum. So I think that's the crux of that point, is that
it's a simple.
You just don't have the referendum. Do you know what I mean? Because it's the assumption there is that, like you said, everyone has some level of understanding what's going on. And I just don't think people did.
Exactly that.
So don't even have the vote at all.
And that's what
we don't have a time machine. Though. We should go.
My point is, in that case, is that so you have to cater politics to everyone, And within that sort of mindset, then you must know that not everyone has the same level of understanding of all your things. I mean, I'm going to say for myself, I mean, I don't want to think about, like, let's just say if there was a vote for everything, you know, I don't want that, you know. I really like to. I don't want to think about much at all.
I don't think anyone does. I don't think anyone wants
that.
that.
You just want them to just deal with it.
And you're right.
But that's why we elect them.
Yeah, exactly.
They're there to represent us. So we elect.
That in itself is an honest point of view. That I think a lot of people would say that.
I don't
But
know.
it's
we elect our
the
politicians to make.
Conservatives didn't think that they were going to get votes. That's why it was in there.
But the reason we elect people is to make decisions on our behalf. It's not so that you can come back and ask me what I want. That's not why you were elected.
Benevolent dictator, yeah? Is that what you want now?
Oh, mate, that'd be the best.
China, yeah?
Well, why don't we go around the table and say what we think should happen now? Because
That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
A long time like lamenting, and it's such an easy thing to do. Just lament the last sort of 3-4 years. But what?
I'll go last.
All right, go on then.
Oh, he's going.
Shane, you want to go first?
So can you phrase the question to me?
No, so okay. So we're looking as if we're going to get a somewhat very Brexity prime minister coming forward.
Yeah.
You know, we've had the EU elections. We've all said what we have about, you know, trying to bring the country together and what the ever increasing polarization of the debate. So in that context, what do you think the right way forward would be?
If I'm completely honest, I'm a massive Remainer and I would love to remain, but I do feel that we just need to come out of the European Union.
Under what sort of treaty?
Preferably under a deal, preferably still in the single market. But because of the free movement of people and a lot of the campaigning was off the back of immigration, I don't think we're gonna remain in the single market. So the only thing I would love to come out and remain in the single market, but I don't think it's going to happen. So the only thing that I can see is that we come out with some sort of trade deal with the EU and just crack on from there. But we do need to come out now. It's dragged on for too long.
Mike, I'm not going next. I have no idea.
I agree with what Shane just said there. Okay. I agree. I mean, I voted leave, but I agree with what Shane just said. It's gone on far too long. It has gone on far too long.
Said, yeah? Knackered, all of us.
Knackered, yeah, we are knackered, top to bottom. And like I said, this is widening. The longer this goes on, the wider the gap is between politicians and the public, and the wider the gap will become in the split in the country with Remain and Leave. So the longer it goes on, it's not going to get any better.
We could have a civil war.
We could
potentially have a civil. No, but I mean, this is the sort of political thing that starts civil wars. Sorry to interject there, but you know,
maybe in less stable countries. I don't think.
Well, as Michael was saying, if the gap between the Remainers and the Leavers gets wider, it could get to that point.
I can't see that, but I agree with with what you say. It needs to be sorted. Yeah.
Am I going next?
I think you are.
Ed was just waiting to hear what everybody else said.
I'll go with all of
Edward's the ultimate fence sitter. I love him.
I was Remain, mate. But yeah.
So I before this weekend, I dilly-dallied a lot between a second referendum or a soft Brexit, and ultimately I thought, you know what, in my heart of heart, I think if there was a second referendum, I think actually Remain we would lose again.
Yeah.
Remain, I think, because it's so easy to come out with the message, tell them again. Like the leave message would be so powerful. I think the Remain forces, as we've seen, they're too sporadic. There's too many people pulling in.
There's no one party for it.
There's no one party. Yeah.
Can I just say something?
I mean, you've only got to look at the Brexit party, what they've done in the EU, and
they've been going for 6-7 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, but
they were UKIP before.
That's all just to stick it to the man. That's what it is.
Can I just
powerful narrative?
Yeah. The two things that you were actually saying that you were umming and ahhing about, so a soft Brexit or a second referendum, I actually think that neither of those things are going to happen.
No, you didn't let me. So
right, okay, sorry.
So I think. I think.
I know, sorry. I've had a couple of beers.
The space for a soft referendum, the soft Brexit, has actually disappeared. I think we will get someone who's quite hard line, and they're not going to be able to take that back. It's going to have to be either a WTO Brexit, or something very, very hard. And I think in that space, it's not an ideal situation, but my hope is that Labour come out a lot more powerfully, a lot more unequivocally, and basically say, well, we need to have a second referendum now, because under the guise that we know a lot more now than we did 3 years ago.
Do you have faith in Corbyn and the leadership?
No, I don't have.
I don't have any
faith in Corbyn. On the news today, he was like, he just repeating the same stuff. I mean, there's some good politicians in Labour who are basically standing up and saying, the country is broken. There's a lot of problems with things, but I think Brexit is not the answer that you're looking for. And I just wish that.
Who are those voices?
I mean, there's an MP from Birmingham called Jess Phillips. Yeah. She's the one who's been having all this trouble with the guy from UKIP. Okay. She's really good. They tend not to be from the Corbyn faction, because Corbyn he's obviously the world's least secret Brexiteer. He's generally a little bit happy about it. Keir Starmer, I think, is exactly. He's a powerful voice. Even Tom Watson has been.
See, I quite like Tom Watson. I do quite like Tom Watson. I do. I didn't at first. No, you're right. I didn't at first, but I do actually quite like Tom Watson.
This might be another pod, but I swear I feel like Corbyn has kind of flopped in a way.
He's a flop.
I kind of felt that he had put himself in a brilliant position to take the Labour Party forward, and then he just absolutely nosedive. And I can't pinpoint when that happened. I think it was actually Brexit, not taking a stance on Brexit. Yeah. I think that's when he just nosedived, because up to that point I was thinking, wow, this guy can actually, he can bring something different to the table. As soon as he had to make a decision.
No, but his ideal scenario. I mean, the thing is, I had this Corbyn. There's so many things that one. I think that Corbyn, actually, you can't look at him and say it's separate from Brexit. Corbyn was a protest vote and an anti sort of neoliberal Blairite, Cameron era.
Do you mean to win the Labour election?
Student vote.
No, not student vote. I mean that I think that you can't consider the fact that Corbyn's come to lead the Labour Party and Brexit has happened. They're not separate issues. It's the same issue. It's that there's factions of our society that are looking for a new way forward. Yeah, exactly. It's a protest against neoliberalism.
So a little bit more socialism rather than the status quo.
Whether it be, because I think there's a lot of socialism,
because people are going for something different on the right. People are going for something different on the left.
Absolutely.
They just want something different.
Exactly, and I think, but I think the difficulty is that Corbyn, actually, things that get him out of bed are probably more foreign policy issues. Yes, he's big on anti-austerity, but he's not. If you listen to what he says, he's not across the detail on the anti-austerity message. That's more John McDonnell.
He's not really he doesn't really speak much about domestic politics at all.
He's much bigger on like Israel, Palestine.
Yeah, foreign policy basically.
Policy. And average Joe on the street doesn't give a shit about foreign policy, and that's the big dilemma. And then he's created this cult sort of following about him, because it's become about the sort of direction of the Labour Party rather than is Corbyn electable. And the thing is, I'm of the point of view, I don't think whoever's prime minister is just a figurehead. It's the intellectual body behind them that's the most important.
He's kind of trading on his record as a backbench MP, his voting record. But when he became leader, he's kind of just been like anyone else in a way. He's kind of played the game when kind of what's needed is for him to actually be that rebel that he was portrayed to be. But he hasn't.
I don't think he'll survive as leader for the next general anyway. I'm not ageist, but to bring his age in, he's not a young man. So
it's his 70th birthday.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't think he's going to be. He's going to want to retire at some point, and to survive until 2022. I don't.
Actually,
I was thinking that as well. I was like,
I meant to survive as the leader of the Labour Party until then, at his age,
before gout sets in.
But at his age to survive, I don't think he'll be leader by the next general election.
Go on then, Nav. What do you reckon? You reckon climate change is all going to be technology will sort it out?
No, so is the question what I want or I want what I think will happen?
What you think should happen?
What I think should happen is that they'll cancel the whole thing, and I want that to happen too. So that's my hope. But do I think that'll happen? I don't know. Maybe.
It would be nice.
It would be nice, yeah. Forget it when it's just a bad dream and let's just move on.
Let's all go to the pub and blow.
What was it called? Is it Dynasty?
Blow over.
Is it Dynasty where at the end it was all a dream? Yeah. There was just something like that. Yeah.
Everyone wakes up in the shower is like, oh, damn.
Oh my god! Wow.
No, that was Dallas.
Is it Dallas?
Yeah.
My mum was a big Dallas fan.
Your mum
might be Dallas.
Sure.
Yeah. Not me. I've never seen an episode. 100%.
But you knew what I was talking about.
Yeah, because my mum loved it.
It's all right, mate. All friends.
I know it's all right. My mum loved it. Anyway.
They've remade it, haven't they?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Oh God, let
So
it
go on, now
lie.
you've listened to everyone else.
Yeah, go on, Edward.
I agree with
Master fence sitter.
You said.
We all said vastly different things.
To be honest,
Not really. I don't think so. I think around the table, apart from Nav,
Yeah, probably.
it was pretty much
Consistent. Yeah, I suppose it
I
is.
suppose I wanted us to remain. I suppose the way things are now, I guess we should just leave. I think I'm knackered. I kind of just want it over and done with. Although I wish like people will come to their senses and just be like, this is a bad idea, but that's not going to happen. So I think the main thing I've been thinking about all this as it's been going is that regardless of what happens, I'm not leaving. I'm not gonna, if we leave with a hard deal, I'm not gonna fly off to Spain and like recreate my life there. I'm staying here. So I think whatever situation we find ourselves in, it's got to make the best of it regardless. That's kind of, regardless of what happens, that's kind of like where I'm at, like personally.
That's what most
I'm kind of
Brexiteers
just
say.
like, I'm kind of just work. I'd rather if we didn't have to go through all this, but whatever happens, just have to.
That's what most Brexiteers say. Funny enough, they say, well, we'll just whatever happens, we'll just stand on our own and we'll.
It's
get
not
through
so
it.
much stand on our own, like because we can't. No one. I think I heard I think I read in the like Economist or something like that is that there's basically 3 rule makers in the world, like America, China, and the EU, and if you're not part of them, then you're taking rules from them, and we're leaving like one of the major players to stand on our own, and I don't think like either the politicians don't really understand or they're misleading people, or the general public don't really understand what we're getting ourselves into here.
Well, maybe it's the re-establishment of the British Empire. Maybe that's what they're thinking.
The thing that pisses me off the most actually is when people say we beat the Germans twice before, we can beat them a third time.
Yeah, but we beat them with so much help.
And also, we're not leaving Germany.
Yeah, it's not even that anymore. It's not even. I'm knackered as well. I think I agree with Mike. I'm knackered. I just kind of want some sort of resolution.
I think a lot of people are knackered.
Yeah.
And it's
I
funny.
think it's about to get a lot more knackering.
As
though,
a
that's
staunch
the thing.
Remainer, I just want us to leave now, and it's bad because I want us to leave just so we can focus on some other shit.
I don't think you're alone in thinking that,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think we're reaching anything but a resolution. I think we've basically just done a full round and we're back where we started.
Indeed.
Anyway,
On that note,
I just want to say good luck to Arsenal in the Europa League on Wednesday.
Tui.
What is
I
that?
thought he was talking about the airline too.
exactly. I was like, exactly.
Has he got his tickets to Baku?
Yeah, exactly. That's the only airline.
I didn't want to spill all over my pop filter.
You taking a holiday, Shane? What's going on? Never mind. That's a bad joke. Anyway. But yeah.
That was
Oh, well,
bad.
you know.
All right, yeah.
It's fine. I accept it. I accept it. I'm
When you edit, Ed, can you put like the tumbleweed noise in when you make that joke?
I'll try. Thanks. But anyway, like, so is this it, or do we want to talk about Game of Thrones?
I think we should do a round of score predictions.
Okay.
for,
All right.
Yeah, score predictions.
Oh, we have to now. I'm sorry.
Well, just I think Game of Thrones should maybe be the first one of another one because I
You got a lot to
want
say.
to
Yeah.
I want to express my disgust in it.
and my disdain as well.
I got a lot of feelings.
Yeah, I've got a lot of.
I'm just going to say that. I thought it was alright.
I hated
sorry,
it. I hated it. I watched 7 seasons to be treated to a load of shit on the 8th.
Do you know what? Right, we got to obviously the first
Guess we're
episode of
talking
season.
about now then.
Okay, let's do
But just like the first episode of season 8, and Charlie was like, right, when this is done, we're going back to the beginning. We're watching season 1 to 8, and we're going to do the whole lot. And I was like, yeah, sweet, all right, fine. You know, take up some time, whatever, in the evenings. It got to the last episode of season 8, and I said to her, if you want to watch that again, you're doing it on your own. I'm not fucking wasting my life again. Nah.
This is how I felt after Lost. I know, Nav, you liked Lost. Nav, you like Lost, but like
Don't upset
no,
me.
but
I was in a good mood.
no, but like
I know you're gonna make
I
a
invested a lot of
nice
time
smile
in that show,
disappear.
and like I gave up TV. Like when we talk about films and TV, and I haven't watched any of them, it's because of Lost.
Any
It's
of them.
because of Lost, and now
That's a
I
cop-out.
committed to.
Yeah, but he didn't actually get the
I
ending.
committed.
So that we had this
No
discussion.
one got the ending. No one got the ending.
He said, "Oh, so they were dead the whole time." I was like, "Oh,
No, I didn't.
Just
no,
forget it.
Like it was right.
I've never watched a single episode
Hey, don't bother me.
of
Don't
Lost.
bother me.
I watched the first season and I liked it, and then when I started seeing the reviews of the second season, I was like,
But season 1 and 2 I felt were really good, but there was a writing
How many
strike.
3, 4, 5, 6,
I got your back now. I liked it.
How many seasons were there?
6."
Season 1 and 2 were great. They were some of the
But
best
like I
TV.
said, you didn't understand it, so then it's just...
It's not about understanding. It's just
literally said
poorly,
to me they were
poorly
dead the whole
written.
time.
It's just poorly written. I never said that.
Oh, Jazz, you were there. Did you not say that?
No comment.
Oh, Jazz, we were there for
I can't remember. I genuinely,
you're such a dick.
I genuinely can't remember.
Jazz is
Okay, then, sorry. Okay, what was the ending about
Jazz
then?
is the moral compass of this pod, yeah. And if he says he
I
doesn't
can't believe
remember,
he said he
then
didn't remember. That's annoying.
I love it. Nav has been so placid about the chat about Brexit the entire
I don't give a
time.
shit about Brexit.
I can't believe that he doesn't matter.
That's it. Yeah, he like literally never said a word, pretty much with that whole thing, and now all of a sudden
guys had it
he's
covered.
going to
I
pop
don't know.
away.
All right, let's explore this. I think we should explore this. Yeah, okay. Well, Ed, what did you understand about the ending of it?
I haven't got a dog in this fight because I've not seen a single episode. So
I'll tell you what, we could say for the next pod, you take the next 3 days off work.
I'm watching. I feel like the general consensus is I'll be fucking depressed by the time it comes around.
No, you'll have
there
a
was a
great
writer's
journey.
strike. Was it season 3 or 4? Season 4, and then like it kind of just tanked from there. But also, I think for me, they had a concept. They had like, we're gonna do this.
A good one.
They had a good concept, but then
Yeah.
it wasn't like they didn't have like a full story. They kind of just with American shows. What was that? And actually, let me say with American.
I'm rolling my eyes,
American
but-
shows, they have a premise, and I suppose they keep like doing serious because it's making money and whatever. They just string it along.
I don't think it's that. I think it's more to do with the fact that with American shows, you always have to leave it in a place that's pretty much finished because they can just get cancelled. So they don't write beyond a certain point, because if you think to yourself, right, I'm going to string out, I've got ideas for 10 seasons worth of content, you could be cancelled by the third. And as a creative person who's writing this, you kind of want some closure at the end of every season because you don't know whether you're going to be
I don't
renewed.
think Lost was like that. Though.
No, so I think what they do is they write for the first 3 seasons, and after the 3rd season, it's like tack-ons.
Well, that's not really benefiting that, but I'll take that. I'll take that explanation.
I think that's
I don't
pretty
even know
much what happens with
that
American.
statement is,
Basically saying after season 3 it was shit.
No, I'm not saying that because I didn't watch it beyond that point. What I'm saying is I'm saying that most American TV shows, because of how
That's harsh, man.
because of how volatile that market is, the writers will write for 3 seasons. And if they get renewed for a 4th season, it's almost like a tack on to what their original plan was. But
Maybe we should save this for like this is too.
No, but there's no point because not all of us have watched it, and the fact that you don't understand the ending.
It's not about understanding. It's just like I don't believe the writers knew what they were doing. It's not about.
Okay, Ed, can you tell me what the ending of Lost is, please?
yeah, I'm interested in this.
No, literally,
Yeah,
Jazz was
Ed,
there.
Edward,
He
right,
said
so-
to me they were dead the
I
whole
didn't,
time.
did I? Look, Jazz, you were there. Did I say that?
Jazz,
Nav is looking very impassioned.
No,
Jazz, I think you're like the icebreaker. You're the breaker here. Do you need to say something?
If that's not what happened, then you
Jazz,
tell me what
tell him
happened.
to tell us what happened at the end.
Ed, what happens in the
Ed,
end?
what's your understanding of the end of Lost?
Basically, that I think at least the last few episodes of the last, from what I remember, they were in purgatory, and then they were kind of like going over their lives and whatever, and then like, and yet, to be honest, I can't. It was a few years ago. I can't remember everything, but purgatory is part of it. And like, I remember it ended with them all getting together in a room, and then a white light flashes. So it means they found their resolution.
But you said they were dead the whole.
Wait, Jazz, did I say that, motherfucker?
That's Nav's.
But don't you have to be
So
dead to be in
Nav, what's your
purgatory?
They weren't
understanding
dead
of the
the
end
whole
of it?
time, but like,
I mean, it's not even about my understanding. This is what happened.
Okay.
There is no ambiguity here because it says it within the canon of the show.
wait, but let me. I'm not saying the island was purgatory. I'm saying the last season ended with them in purgatory.
Also, canon is a great word.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't say that, Ed, but and I know you're changing it because I broke it down for you over that
I
dinner.
don't, to be honest, I don't even remember what you said.
Oh yeah,
I don't like.
I wanna hear this.
Yeah, I want to, Edward. I'd like to hear what he's
Yeah,
going to
come on,
say.
Nav, please. I want to hear
We're
this.
running out of time here, so yeah.
No, I want to hear it. I want to hear
You can do
it.
it on the Game of Thrones one.
Quick, in a nutshell, Nav.
No, go on,
Nav,
go on,
how did
60
it end?
seconds, what's gonna happen?
In a nutshell.
Well, okay, so the plane crashed. They landed on the island.
Yeah.
Everything that happened on the island happened. A few of them escaped the island. And then the people that remained on the island, there was this time jumping thing, whatever. And then they come back to the island, and then they live their life. And there's a new leader of the island. And what's so special about the island is that they've, it's the source of time. So it's the actual, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a tangible version of time.
Okay.
So within this cave area, it's like a river, and that's time, like in solid form.
Yeah.
Or liquid form rather.
Mm.
And that's why that island is special. They protect it and they elect a new leader and so on and so forth. And that's it. Yeah. And
So basically, they're protecting time.
yeah. Yeah. And
What
that's
don't you get about that, Ed?
Fuck you, Mike.
I've never seen a single episode, and I've got it in about 35 seconds.
You got Nav's version of it.
Well, it sounds pretty solid to me.
Sure.
It sounds pretty solid.
Yeah,
I mean, you're talking about purgatory and white
Well,
lights and
it's
shit, and he's pretty much laid it out.
So with Purgatory, the problem with the writers were trying
All this
to
is
be
getting
clever,
cut
right?
out, by the way. Just saying. No, it's not. It's
Oh,
not.
then shall I
No,
not
no.
No, I want to hear it.
No. The whole Purgatory concept was because in season 1, a lot of the fans were saying, "Oh, they're dead," like the Sixth Sense kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there was all these sort of ghost references. So in season 6, I thought the writers were quite clever because they gave the impression of an alternate timeline, which was them after everything had happened. That's where they all meet. So it's not, the show was not about Purgatory.
I never said the show
It's just
was.
a narrative.
The question you asked me is how did the show end, and I said they were in purgatory.
No, I said what was the show
No, you
about?
said how did the show end.
Oh, we can.
Yeah, we
re-listen
can.
to that.
Yeah, how did the show end?
He's just explained
but
it.
I'm saying that was the question you asked me.
No, I swear my question was what was the show about?
We
listen to
can.
that,
No, but the scene at the end though, where they're in the church and they're all coming together, that is the alternative timeline.
Yeah,
where they're
no.
all-
So that is when after they've all died, like 1,000
Yeah,
years
exactly.
or whenever
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
they're all meeting together. And I think at that point,
So that is about the afterlife.
And is that exactly?
Yeah. But that wasn't what the whole narrative
No,
of the
but
show
no. I'm
was
saying
about.
the ending was shit. I'm saying
I feel like I might watch it.
check it out.
I feel like I might watch it.
It's
I think it's on Prime actually.
Is it?
Yeah.
hey, if you want to waste your life,
Also, you
go
have
for
to
it.
appreciate it was the first. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but Lost was one of the first shows that brought cinematic
yeah. It was
quality.
the most expensive.
Oh yeah,
pilot.
definitely, definitely.
Yeah, because that was like worldwide phenomenon when it lost.
And 24.
Yeah.
It's pretty much what kicked off. Yeah, it's pretty much what kicked off stuff like The
24.
Walking Dead and all of that. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
What,
Yeah.
you don't- 24, like that's
The first series I watched,
and Prison
but
Break
only,
24. I never
only the first series.
Prison Break. That's another one that irks me. That started off amazingly
I never watched
good, and then it tailed off and got really
I only watched
shit.
the first series of 24, and that was only because Alicia Cuthbert was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First season's really the only one worth watching.
Yeah, not so much anymore though. Have you seen her? Yeah, it's a shame. She married one of Justin Timberlake's backup dancers, which fucked me right off. But anyway,
Because you're like, I dance better than him.
You did your research, Mike. Yeah.
yeah.
Right, so we're going to do score predictions then.
Score predictions. Yeah.
Go on, Edward. You go
Chelsea
first.
4-0.
Yes.
3-1 Arsenal.
Oh fuck off, Ed.
3-1 Chelsea.
Oh yeah, sorry, no 4-0. That was a joke. I'm going to say 2-1 Chelsea. I'll go.
I'm going to go 2-1. The 1-1 after 90 minutes and then 2-1. It is extra time, right? It's
Extra,
not-
yeah.
Yeah, then 2-1 Chelsea.
It's weird because I support Chelsea, but I think Arsenal are going to win. So, oh god, I don't know. 2-1 Arsenal, I guess.
2-1 and they're all dead.
Yeah,
Anyway.
we're dead the whole time.
They're all dead.
We're just playing a bunch of ghosts. Yeah.
Champions League. Ed, we'll start with you. Go on, say something silly.
3-1 Liverpool.
All right.
1-0 Tottenham.
Fuck off.
I'm going to go 2-1 Liverpool.
Oh.
3-1 Liverpool.
Yeah, I think Liverpool. I think it's domination.
Typical
by Liverpool.
Tottenham pessimism. Yeah.
Realism.
I can't wait for
We're
Tottenham.
like
to
the
win.
same though. But, yeah. I
I don't get why Man United fans like Tottenham so much.
We hate Liverpool.
That's true.
a fair
I'm pretty sure I mean, I've spoken to a lot of Chelsea fans and West Ham fans, and the only sets of fans that actually want Liverpool to win is Arsenal and Liverpool. Obviously,
Well, not even West Ham.
no. I've spoken to I assume there are, but I've spoken to like die-hard Chelsea fans, and they want Tottenham to
That's
win.
how you know the real rivalry is Arsenal Tottenham. Like West Ham
Well,
kind of
possibly
kinda,
no, but because there is a big rivalry with Chelsea and Liverpool, isn't there?
Yeah, but I mean, like say
So-
West Ham, they trying to claim some sort of rivalry with you, but really,
Nah,
the
they're a
fun
chip
rivalry.
shop club anyway.
yeah, it's really Arsenal Tottenham is the quintessential London rivalry. Really.
Oh, God. Let's just end it there.
Yeah. So that's
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah, cheers, fellas.
Watch Lost.
Don't watch Lost.